folks. This is Cara and James Kerouacs, and today we're going to talk to you about some of our favorite viewpoints at the Grand Canyon. You want to say hi, James?
Hi, this is James from Kerouacs Cruising, and we bring you the Grand Canyon viewpoints, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Try to give you all the insider information. We mentioned in the last few episodes that we've been living up here for 9 years, so we've got a lot of information. First, I'm going to kind of build you my most recommended. If you just had 24 hours at the Grand Canyon, you only had one day to spend, how best to see as much of this canyon as possible. The South Rim National Park section of the Grand Canyon is only about 40 miles long, so you really can hit every single viewpoint in one day if you were diligent. And we're talking, you're literally looking at the viewpoint, snapping a couple of pictures, and then heading off to the next viewpoint. Not a whole lot of time for just hanging out. So depending on what you wanted to do with your day, maybe you miss a couple of them so you can spend some more time soaking in the beauty of it. If I were to build the perfect day, I would start 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning at the Grand Canyon Village. So that's coming in the main entrance. You would follow the Highway 64. It turns into South Rim Drive. If you continue straight, you're going to drive right past the visitor center, continue to loop around past Yavapai Point, and you'll end up in the Grand Canyon Village. Once you get into the village, you'll see a train, just a little section of a train in the Grand Canyon train station. I would make your first right and park at the El Tovar. Especially if you get there in the morning, you should be able to find a parking spot up there. And that's where I would start your day, park your car, and you're going to walk for a little while. On the east side of the El Tovar parking lot, you have the Verkamps Visitor Center. That's going to have a gift shop and a museum. And then if you continue towards the west, you're going to have the Hopi House and then the El Tovar. Both of them museums, gift shops. You can grab a bite to eat in the El Tovar if you wanted to. Did you want to add anything?
The only thing I'll say about this parking lot is behind Verkamp, you'll see a bathroom. So if you get up there at 8 or 9 in the morning, there is no parking. There is some parking behind the Verkamp. And there's a bathroom right there. If you go in between the bathroom and Verkamp, there is some parking back.
It's a little dirt parking lot.
We parked there many, many times, and usually people just think it's nothing back there because there's a dumpster and stuff right there.
Yeah.
So that's a great spot to park. It's a little hidden parking spot.
So then you're walking along the rim trail there is what we call it, that paved path along the edge of the rim. You're enjoying beautiful canyon views. Believe it or not, when you look over the edge there, you're actually only seeing halfway down the canyon. And as you get out into the other viewpoints, you'll really catch the depth of this canyon. You're only seeing just over a half a mile down into the lower mesa there. You can continue walking along the rim trail, go beyond the El Tovar. The El Tovar is the high-end restaurant at the Grand Canyon. It is easiest to get in there for breakfast. There does tend to be a wait, especially just after sunrise, and then around 9-10 o'clock in the morning, they tend to get busy again. For lunch and dinner, I strongly recommend having reservations. I would try to call in advance or go on their website before you plan your trip to try to get those reservations for when you want to be there. If you're off season, many times you can get your name just on a wait list and they'll give you a call or text message when they're ready to seat you. But you go beyond the El Tovar, keep walking, you'll have some buildings on the left, beautiful canyon views on the right. Then you'll come to the fountain, Bright Angel Lodge, Arizona Steakhouse. It starts out as a log building, turns into a beautiful rock building. The Bright Angel Lodge has dining, so the Arizona Steakhouse and Fred Harvey Burger. Last we checked, they've changed that restaurant's name a few times, but there's a restaurant on the inside of the hotel. They've got a museum dedicated to the Harvey girls and some of the history around the Bright Angel. And then, of course, they've got a gift shop. When you continue past the Bright Angel, on your right-hand side is going to be Lookout Studios. Absolutely beautiful views out of those studios. They're going to walk you through a gift shop, make you work for those views. Just continue through the gift shop. You can either go upstairs or downstairs, 3 flights. It really was built to help accentuate the views. It turns your tummy when you look over those walls. It really helps you gain that depth of how steep and deep this canyon is. And then beyond Lookout Studios, you can keep along the path on your left-hand side, just after the main building of the Bright Angel Lodge, Bucky O'Neill's cabin. This log cabin is the oldest building in the national park. It is the only building left from the pioneer days. It was built in the late 1800s. There's a neat little information board there about Bucky O'Neill and his history. Then you continue down the path, and you're going to have the Kolb Studios on the right. Amazing history with the Kolb brothers. Those guys were photographers in the canyon, and they weren't known for taking things easy or safely. They captured gorgeous, dramatic views of this canyon. It didn't matter how dangerous it was going to be to capture these views. So I strongly recommend going inside Kolb Studios, see some of those photos that they've taken because they're really awe-inspiring. after the Culp Studios, you get an option of going right or left. You essentially have a fork. If you go right, that's going to take you onto the Bright Angel Trail. If you go left, that's going to keep you on the rim trail and you're going to go up to the Bright Angel Trailhead. If you go right, that's going to take you down and then you're going to come to another fork. Right is going to continue you down into the canyon. Left is going to take you back up to the trailhead. So once you do reach the Bright Angel Trailhead, there's some great information there about the trail and about the mules. Now you've completed the Grand Canyon Village. Now you could go back up to El Tovar and grab your car, but my recommendation is actually continue walking and hit the Hermit's Rest shuttle or the red shuttle, as long as it is between March and November. November to March, there is no shuttle buses running. The upside of that is you can drive out there on your own. If you've got anything that makes it difficult for you to walk out there or jump on those shuttle buses, go find a park ranger. You can do that at the visitor center. A lot of the time at the head of the Bright Angel Trailhead, there's park rangers hanging around. Talk to a park ranger and ask them for the pass to get you out to Hermit's Road. They actually give you the code and you can physically drive your car out there. Before I continue, I'm going to check in with James and make sure if he has anything to add about the village or getting out to Hermit's Rest.
The only thing I'm going to say, she mentioned the fountain. The fountain is outside of the Bright Angel Lodge, and it is a spot that you can get coffee, snacks, and ice cream. That's what it's known for. So it's a great spot in the morning. They have some pastries, really easy. And then further down, right at the Bright Angel Trailhead, one of the things, if you have a water bottle, they have a water filling station at the top of that trailhead, and they have a mule corral. So the mules come up every morning around 9. You'll get a good shot of the mules. So just imagine they're leaving pretty early to come up that early. That's what I'll say about that. And then you're off to Hermit's Rest Road.
So heading out to Hermit's Rest, jump on the shuttle bus again, or walk. You can absolutely walk the trail. It's 7 miles. And if you look to the west, you have to climb pretty high in elevation. So it's a kind of a treacherous walk for that first bit, especially. So I do recommend, unless you're trying to see if you can get into those trails, how you can handle that elevation, I definitely recommend jumping on the shuttle buses or driving out if you can get the pass or the right time of year. And that very first viewpoint is Trail View. It is by far one of our favorite spots in the canyon, particularly because we've hiked the trail. So when you get to Trail View, there's some stairs that take you down into the canyon a little bit, kind of really open up your view, but you're looking down at the Bright Angel Trail. If you're thinking about hiking into the canyon, I think going to Trail View is an absolute must so you can wrap your brain around what you're going to be doing. A lot of people aren't used to hiking this kind of elevation, this kind of difficult trail. So getting your eyes on the switchbacks and seeing it climbing in and out of the canyon can really be an eye-opener. Did you have something to add on that?
I do like that spot. It's great to see the trail. You can see the mules coming up or going down, and you get to see people walking up and down the trail. Kind of gives you the difficulty of the trail. So I really like it. So that's a must-see, especially if you're going to hike down the trail to go into the canyon.
So the shuttle bus comes by every 15 to 20 minutes. So you go check out Trail View and then wait at the shuttle bus stop. Another bus will come by and head off to the next stop. My favorite spot from Trail View would be Mojave Point. This is also one of my favorite spots to enjoy the sunset. I think there's 3 or 4 stops in between Trail View or Mojave. But in my opinion, Mojave Point's a must-see.
I will say on the shuttle buses, they run every 15, 20 minutes, but they do first thing in the morning, an hour before sunrise, and an hour after sunset. They run, but they go to 30 minutes until 8 o'clock in the morning. And right at sunset, they stop running every 15 minutes. They go to every 30 minutes just to get you back out of those view spots, back into where your car is going to be.
Good point. So then from Mojave Point, there's a few more stops. You've got Powell Point, you've got the Abyss, Pima Point, but we really like Hermit's Rest itself. So the very last viewpoint, got a shop there where you can grab gifts and snacks, ice cream again. And this is where I would recommend grabbing lunch. So the Grand Canyon Railway train comes up at about 12 o'clock and it unleashes up to 2,000 people a day into the Grand Canyon Village. So the village gets really, really busy. And these people are essentially stranded with the exception of the rim trail and the shuttle buses. So a lot of them will jump on the red route and start heading out to the west. So we're kind of trying to time this around where you are avoiding those crowds as much as possible. So by the time you're getting to Hermit's Rest, it's noon, 1 o'clock. Those people are just starting to head out in your direction. So you should have pretty clear, easy access with not a whole lot of people around. If you walk behind the main building for Hermit's Rest, there's some water bottle refilling stations. There's some restrooms in that direction. You walk a dirt path and it takes you to the edge of the canyon. Almost hardly ever anybody back there. There's some picnic tables back there, and it's a really great spot to have lunch. So whether you brought a picnic lunch or you grabbed a bite at Hermit's Rest, it's a really great spot to just enjoy the peace and quiet of the canyon. That's also the head of the Hermit's Trail. So from there, after you have your bite to eat and have enjoyed Hermit's Rest, we recommend jumping back on the shuttle bus. Unless somebody requests a stop heading back to the village, it's just a direct route. They don't stop anywhere. So it's a nice quick ride back to the village. Then you unfortunately do have to walk back up the hill, back to the Altovar to go grab your car. And then from here, we recommend heading out east. And our first stop is Yavapai Point, the Geology Museum. And this spot can get busy. However, we think the Geology Museum and the views from here are kind of spectacular. So if the parking lot isn't full, we do want to encourage you to stop here. The Geology Museum has a lot of really great information. There's actually gorgeous views from the Geology Museum, but this is the only spot where you can see Phantom Ranch at the bottom of the canyon, as well as the Black Suspension Bridge. And there's some boards there to give you that kind of information. The bridge is 440 feet long and is hanging 70 feet above the river, and it barely looks like a toothpick hanging out across this 300-foot wide river. So it really helps you gain some depth here and understanding. And then Phantom Ranch would be across the canyon. You've got a gorge, the Bright Angel Fault Line, that's cutting through the north rim, and at the bottom of that gorge, there's a cluster of green trees, and that's Phantom Ranch, which is the accommodations at the bottom of the canyon. So that's where the mules take their riders. That's where most of the hikers hang out. You got Bright Angel Campground down there. They've got a restaurant, a hotel, of course, that campground. So it's really cool to be able to see that from the top. And at Yavapai Point, you're at 7,100 feet in elevation, and Phantom Ranch is at 2,500 feet in elevation. So it helps you kind of really gauge the depth in the canyon that you're seeing here.
I like Yavapai Point really for the views. There is a spot that you can get out there. You go down some stairs and there's a railing. It's just right of the Geology Museum itself. I very highly recommend that, but they got telescope and you can see the Black Bridge looking through their telescope. Also the North Rim. You have to look at the reading on the telescope, but some of them are pointed at the river. Some of them are pointed at the Black Bridge, but there is one pointed the hotel on the North Rim. And I also like going inside the Geology Museum. They actually have a model of the Grand Canyon, all 277 miles of it. And it kind of tells you you're here. So it gives you how vast this Grand Canyon is. And then obviously the other thing I like is there's conveniently bathrooms right there. So after you leave this spot and you're heading out to where we're saying to go next, there's going to be very limited bathrooms. If you're going to head out Desert View Drive, and that's heading east out to some private view spots, you're going to want to use the bathroom before you get on the road again.
You're looking at Volt toilets, stinky hole in the grounds from here on out. Great points. I forgot about the scaled down topographical map of the Grand Canyon. It's a really impressive way to gain perspective. All right, so after Yavapai Point, we recommend going right past the visitor center. If you want to talk to a ranger, if you want an abundance of information, they are full of it. There's definitely a ton of stuff that can be gained from the visitor center, but pretty much everybody goes here. It's packed. There's no elbow room. So we recommend avoiding it. You get your maps when you come in the main gate. I think, especially listening to us, there's no need really to go to the visitor center. So you would go beyond the visitor center and you're going to come to an intersection with a stop sign. You're going to turn left. You're going out to the Desert View Drive, signs pointing towards Cameron. And this is a nice scenic drive. You want to start out slow. There are, of course, viewpoints all along the way. But our favorites, the first one that I would definitely make sure you stop at is Grand Viewpoint. And that's really going to be about a 15-minute drive from that intersection. There are a few viewpoints and pull-offs in between. Again, absolutely stop at them if you have the time to. But Grand Viewpoint's going to be our first must-see. There's a lot of neat things here that we'll go into detail about, but ultimately it was the spot of a hotel in the late 1800s and early 1900s and a mine that you can actually still get to today. So we'll talk about that a little bit deeper when we're digging further into these viewpoints. From there, we talked about in a previous episode, on your right-hand side, you're going to come up to Forest Service Road 310. That's at mile marker 253.5. So that's where you would turn right if you are wanting to camp out in the closest dispersed camping to the national park.
I'm going to stop right there because one of the biggest things, if you're on a day trip, she talked about the dispersed camping, but what I like about going out on Fire Service Road 310 is they have the Grand View Watchtower. It's 70 feet in height. You can climb up the ladder and check it out. It's open to the public. The Arizona Trail there. That's a trail that goes from Utah to Mexico, right straight through the Grand Canyon. There's some walkways right there. So there's another bathroom, but I like walking up 70 feet and you get a good view of the Grand Canyon. It's just a cool spot. There's not a lot of people out there. There is picnic tables. You could have lunch out there. It's a must see as far as I'm concerned. It's a cool spot.
Good point. So from Grand View, of course, we passed Forest Road 310 where the Grand View Tower is. And then you continue to mile marker 255.5. Now, this is not going to be on any map. This is kind of one of those the locals know about it spots. There is no formal parking lot. It's a little pull off on the north side of the Highway 64. So if you're coming from the west going to the east, it is going to be on the left-hand side. It's just a little pull off on the side of the highway, right on the edge of the cliff. You can see the trees are thin. You can see the canyon there. If you're strategic, you could probably get 2 cars in there, but for the most part, it's a 1-car spot. The view is really spectacular. Just when you first get out of the vehicle and walk to the edge, it's really impressive. But you can see there's a nice thin trail, no wider than a game trail. It's mostly just matted down grass, but you can see where people walk and you climb up the rocks there, but it's not a very far distance. Wouldn't even guess it was a quarter mile.
It's uphill, so it can be strenuous. So I don't recommend it if you have any health conditions, but it's a great spot to go up there.
Mm-hmm. You get up to the top there and the views really are impressive. You can see to the left-hand side, rock formation called Sinking Ship. You were able to see that from Grand Viewpoint. It was to your east. Now it's going to be to your west. You're on the other side of it. You can see the Colorado River. You can see some of the lower level, the basement rocks down inside the canyon. And you can see all of the valleys around the Grand Canyon and just see how far and vast all of this is. You can see to the north, there's a mountain way off into the distance, Navajo Mountain. It looks like just a little bump. It's 90 miles north of us. And then when you turn around to leave, you're going to see above the treetops just a little peak of the San Francisco Peak, Humphreys Peak, just a little bit of the top of it. That mountain is 80 miles south of you. And of course, this is on crystal clear days that you can see that far in either direction. But that's a pretty spectacular realization for people who are not typically able to see that kind of distance. But this spot is really beautiful. Almost never anybody out here. I definitely strongly do not recommend trying to bring your dogs out here because you are kind of jumping from rock to rock in some areas. Then from there, get back out on the 64. We've got Moran Point will be your next viewpoint. And James, this is one of your favorite spots. So definitely let you talk about it a little bit more.
I like Moran Point. It's a great view, either direction, east or west. You can see down the gorge of the canyon. But what I like about it, you really get to see the rapids of the Colorado River. Most people look down at Yavapai Point, the Geology Museum, and say, oh, that river doesn't look very big. In fact, it's 300 feet wide. But when you're at Moran Point, they call it the Hance Rapids. You actually hear the rapids in the background. On a quiet day, or if there's not a lot of people there, if you go on the far corner of the ramp right there is a guardrail, and you sit right there and you look down through, you can see the river and you can see the white caps of the water. It's still just a spectacular view up and down the canyon. No bathrooms, but a great view spot.
So to touch on being able to see these rapids, exactly where you need to stand, there's an informational sign that talks about Thomas Moran, the gentleman that the point was named after. If you stand to the left of that sign and look down the wash to the right, you can see the rapids down there. The other spot would be from the parking lot, if you were to pull in and park immediately, there's a wall there that ends. If you walk around that wall, you've got a wash that comes up and it's a corridor. Again, on a quiet day, no wind, you can hear the Colorado River rapids, the Hans Rapids, echoing up that corridor. It's pretty spectacular to hear.
And I do like Moran Point for sunset, different times of the year.
So after Moran Point, next stop is Lippin Point. This is my personal favorite spot. What I love about it, not only are you super close to the Colorado River, it seems like if you threw a rock, don't throw rocks because you could hit hikers or animals down there. But it does seem like if you threw a rock, you could probably hit the river. So again, helping you realize how big this river is. It's pretty smooth right below you here. You're not seeing any rapids, but you're in the belly of the sea of the canyon where the canyon changes direction. So of course, the Colorado River starts in Colorado and makes its way through Utah. And then just south of the Utah border, the Grand Canyon starts. And it snakes its way heading to the south. And then it changes direction and starts to snake its way to the west, eventually ending at Lake Mead near Las Vegas. So this is the belly of the sea where the canyon is coming from the north and changing direction and heading towards the west. So you can see pretty far to the north and pretty far to the west. And I think it's kind of a eye-opening view on how big this river is. This is also a bird important site. You see a lot of different species of birds here. This is the closest distance from the south rim to the north rim in the national park. So things like California condors are sighted here quite often. And then your very last point is the Desert View Watchtower. Now, this was built by Mary Coulter in 1932. It's an absolutely beautiful structure. It was intentionally built to look weathered. The cracks that you see were all intentional. This was all the handiwork and creativity of Mary Coulter and her feeding off of her inspiration from visiting various Native American sites in the West while she was working out here. So that's an awesome view. You are able to go to the top. They only let 25 people up at a time, especially in the busy seasons. I would recommend going and checking in, check how long the wait's going to be. Depending on the time of the year, they'll give you a tag or they'll make you wait in line, but you can climb to the top and the views at the top are really just spectacular. It was built to help accentuate the view at this location, not only of the canyon, but of the Painted Desert out towards the east. So if you get the chance to head out there, strongly recommend doing so. But this is kind of the watering hole on the east side of the national park. So you've got good restrooms here. You got all kinds of food, decent parking. So there's a lot of tour buses that will stop here. So Desert View Watchtower, Visitor Center, Yavapai Point, and Grand Canyon Village will see a lot of tour buses. So there could be times that there are a decent amount of crowds and again, longer lines and waits to get up to the top. But if you time it out right, especially if you come in the later evening, you've spent the whole day at the canyon, you're ending at Desert View Watchtower, you should be able to get in pretty easy. And then from there, once you leave Desert View Watchtower, you pretty much leave the national park on the east side. So you continue to follow the Highway 64. You come to an intersection at the town of Cameron. You get two options. You can go north or south. North is going to take you to Page, Antelope Canyon, Lake Powell, Horseshoe Bend, the North Rim, Zion, Bryce, Utah, Colorado, all those places. That's where your GPS is usually going to send you if you're going in that direction from the Grand Canyon. South is going to take you to Flagstaff. And then from Flagstaff, of course, you could head in the direction of Albuquerque, Sedona, Phoenix, Las Vegas, wherever your journeys are ultimately taking you.
Thanks for tuning in to Kerouacs Cruising.
We're thrilled to have you with us.
We had a blast recording this episode and hope you enjoyed our adventures as much as we enjoyed sharing them.
For more amazing pictures and stories, visit our website and blog at kerouacscruising.com.
And join the conversation on Facebook at Kerouacs Cruising or email us at join@kerouacscruising.com.
We'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider liking, subscribing, and leaving us a review.
Your support helps us reach more listeners and allows us to continue sharing our travel experiences with you.
It's a generous favor that means the world to us.
Thank you so much for listening to Kerouacs Cruising.
Until next time, happy travels.